Please listen carefully.
Welcome back to the Focus Target Podcast. This is your host, Captain Smiley, with you as always. I should say, with me as always, also with you, with all of us are Shy and Van. Afternoon, gentlemen.
Going on, player?
How are things?
They are okay. I'm looking. I know this isn't a hockey podcast, but the Golden Knights had a 52% chance last night of making it, and then they lost.
And they lost
so
a game
it's
they really
probably
needed to win. Yeah.
right. They really needed those 2 points, so it's not looking good. So I'm doing good because the Dodgers have come out banging. So
The Dodgers. Watch
The
out for the
Dodgers.
Rockies. They started 4-1, I think. Which
yeah,
they
better
always
than
do.
the Dodgers. Dodgers started 1-2, and then they just won on a 7-game tear. So now they're 8-2.
Yeah, the Rockies always start a lot better than they finish.
If this isn't a hockey podcast, it's definitely not a baseball podcast. Let's get on track, guys. Let's get on track.
Yes,
Sorry.
well, yeah, so we're here today to talk about The Matrix Resurrections. We're finally getting around to it. Hopefully you've all had a chance to see it. We'll give another spoiler warning here before the actual meat of it, because before that we have a question of the day, as is our way on the Focus Target Podcast. So today's question of the day, last time we talked about a lot of different things, but we talked a little bit about games that we were kind of looking forward to, and so we didn't really get too deep into it. So today's question is, which upcoming video game, are you most excited for? And I'm going to start today with Shy. Shy, is there any game on your radar? I know you've been busy with Lost Ark, and maybe that's all you've been playing. But is there anything on the horizon that you've kind of got your eyes on?
Ooh, you're like a rapper. You could have done like a rap there, like anything on the horizon that you got your eyes on. Like I don't know, there's something there. I feel like there's something there.
We used to rap on this podcast
Donkey
back
Kong
in the day.
back. Yeah, this could be kind of a cop-out answer because I don't really have a game I'm looking forward to. But I will say, as you and I were just talking about before we started the podcast, the first kind of major content update for Lost Ark is coming out this week. So I'm looking forward to that. There's some new classes I'm looking forward to trying out, and I'm excited to see what other content they release. So I'll go with that.
You don't have to wait very long for your most excited upcoming game. You've got to wait, like 2 days?
Something like that, yeah.
All right, not too bad. What about you, Van? Any game on the horizon for you?
Yeah.
On the horizon, one might say.
Yeah. It's called The Forest 2.
Forest.
So I did talk about The Forest.
You did. I was gonna say you talked about
podcast
this once,
a little
right?
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I was like, I wonder if they're gonna make a second iteration. And sure enough, The Forest 2 was supposed to come out in May, so that was right around the corner. And yet they've pushed it back now to November, and that is what it is. Yeah, I know a 6-month delay is pretty gnarly. So yeah, looking forward to The Forest 2.
All right, very good. I think I mentioned a while back in a podcast not that long ago. I'm really excited for the new Super Mario Strikers game coming out, the soccer game. I think that comes out in like June. But the game that's really on my radar that's been picking up steam lately is a game called Hogwarts Legacy. And they've released during the state of play that PlayStation does. They released a lot of new footage of the build. It's coming out. I think it's coming out sometime later this year. I don't know if we have an exact release date, but if for those of you who don't know, it's basically set in you're a student at Hogwarts, right? But it's pre all the Harry Potter movie stuff. So it's set in the late 1800s, before all the characters and Voldemort and all that stuff, even all the movie stuff from Newt Scamander, none of that's even happened. You're predating all that. And you basically get to go and be a student and have some kind of independent story set in the Harry Potter world. And when I first heard about it, I thought, that looks cool, and if it's well done, could be a lot of fun. But the new videos they released of it actually made it look really good, and I really would recommend you go check it out, because when I was watching it, especially the combat, the spell to the wizard on wizard combat where they're slinging spells at each other, I'm like, I don't feel like even in the movies it captured this. This is what I feel like combat would look like if you were a freaking wizard. The dude's just blasting things and pulling people closer and knocking stuff out of their hand. Like it's pretty ridiculous. Like it looks like a really fun game where you have a lot of control over how you want to develop your magic, and like you get to go to your classes and solve mysteries and explore and do all the kind of things you would expect from a Harry Potter game. So the more I've seen about it, the more I've been like, wow, this actually looks like it could be a very exciting game. It looks like from what I can tell, it's a single player, kind of like a single player RPG experience. So something to keep your eye on, Hogwarts Legacy, if you're into Harry Potter or you know
Have we done
those
a Harry Potter
games.
podcast? I can't remember.
No, I don't think
Oh,
so.
good lord.
I'd
That's a
remember that.
7 series podcast now.
That's
Yeah, I would remember that too.
yeah. I could I'd go for a long time on Harry Potter. So um,
Yeah, that would be
maybe,
quite the podcast.
maybe we'll put that in the chamber. Have you guys both read all the books or any of
No,
the
I
books?
haven't read I haven't
You've
read
al-
all of them.
you've
I've
read some.
watched all of them, but
You've seen
yes,
all the
I have read
movies
some. Yes.
and you've read some of them. Have
Correct.
you and you've watched the have you watched the like the Newt Scamander the Fantastic Beasts movies as
No,
well?
none of the Fantastic Beasts.
Haven't gotten to Fantastic Beasts. What about you,
Correct.
Shy? What's your hair? Sorry to take us
I
on the side here, but
no, yeah, I owned the first 3 books. That's all I read because by the time the 4th book came out, I was in college and I was playing a lot of games with buddies, and I was like, I'd rather play games than read Harry Potter
and
4.
that's where it really gets so good.
And I've seen the movies as of recently. I didn't actually watch them like in theaters. I didn't watch them like even recently after they came out. Like I enjoy Harry Potter, but I'm not like a super fan by any means. So
Well, of course, I
Tim's
haven't
like a
read.
super fan. Dude, I will say the video adaptations from the books that I have read are really good so
Yeah.
far, though.
yeah,
Like really spot on. So, what I expected movie adaptations to be, not like other ones that we've seen,
Sure.
Ready Player One and crap like that.
Let's
But
not get into that.
or,
Well, let's
or
talk.
sequels. I mean, even potentially.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna
Right.
say we don't have to talk about adaptations. Let's just talk about movies in general, because let's
Yeah.
transition over to the Matrix Resurrection. So before we get to that, if you have a question of the day topic for us, if you'd like to hear thoughts about upcoming games we should be excited for, give us some feedback. We'll have our contact information at the end of the show, and of course, once again, the requisite spoiler warning: Matrix Resurrections, I think, is available to be streamed. Is it? Do you know, Van? Did
I
you
don't think
watch
it's
it?
on any free platform right now, but you can stream it, of course, for small fees. You could rent them and stuff like that.
Right. So, I don't know. We'll see. You'll get our opinions of the movie, but like in almost all cases, I think before you listen to somebody yap about it, check it out for yourself. If you haven't watched the movie yet, hold this podcast, go watch it, check it, find out what you think first, and then come hear what we think, because we're gonna go deep on the whole movie, spoiling everything about it, basically. So you have been warned. Okay, Matrix Resurrections. We did a number of podcasts about the original Matrix trilogy fairly recently. And I think, if I remember correctly, Van, you felt, having rewatched them a couple times, that they grew on you with subsequent watches, right?
Correct. That is
And
that is
so,
accurate. Which is
and
not unlike the first one. But the first one I
probably true.
liked initially, and then
Yeah.
ended up just loving subsequently. The following two, I actually didn't like initially, and then ended up actually liking them. So yeah,
The more you watch them. And
right.
so, just to level set, how many times have each of us seen Resurrections just once, or has
I
anyone
have
seen
seen
it?
it once.
You saw it once, Shy once. I saw it twice. So okay, so it'll be interesting to see if that colors my opinion compared to
Yeah.
yours. But all right, so let's start with the easiest question: is what did you think of Matrix Resurrections? Did you like the movie? I'll start with Van this time. Van, did you like Resurrections?
Oh man, I that's hard to answer. Originally, I
Sounds
didn't
like
think I was gonna like it. I
sounds like you
started
just need to
watching
watch it
it.
again.
I started watching it. Yeah, it sounds like I should watch it again. Started watching it, and honestly, I was like, okay, this is pretty freaking cool. And then the last maybe 15% of the movie, I was like, this just ruined the whole movie, and I don't like this anymore. I probably won't go back and watch this again, which is what I said about second and third. And then I went back and actually enjoyed them. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because it was something that was on my mind. And I
Hmm.
don't know why it seems so exclusive to Matrix movies, but
I think
yeah,
probably
I'm what
because
I do
I
have
guess
that
we'll get
wonder.
into that. I have some thoughts about why.
Yeah, about the
I
in
think it's
depth and intertwine, and once you know what's going on, then you can actually start watching it happen throughout the movie, and it's more enjoyable and all that crap. Yeah, yeah. So I would say my least favorite of the four,
okay.
and it was okay, and we'll go into all the reasons I'm sure later.
Indeed. All right. What about you, Shy?
Um, I went in with very low expectations, and I did not like it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
yeah.
went
So
in with very
you
low
were prepared.
expectations, and I could
Yeah,
not get to the bar. Couldn't get there.
when you said that you watched it twice, that's why I was laughing for those who aren't
Yeah.
watching the
Wow.
podcast, because I was like, obviously, I warranted a second view for Smiley. Like, as of right now, I have no intention to ever watch the movie again.
Really?
I don't
Wow.
know. It's interesting you guys talking about that because that is over time. That's kind of how I started feeling about the second one, and then when I did go back and watch it more, I enjoyed it more. And honestly, like so I watched the movie the first weekend it was available on HBO Max, right? So the first weekend it was available, right? Because I think it simultaneously released in theaters and HBO Max. Is that correct?
True. Accurate.
Um, so like I actually went up and looked a synopsis up because like just today because I'm like I don't know that I remember everything from this film and we're gonna talk about it tonight. I should probably just go refresh my memory. And like the synopsis I read, I'm like half the stuff I'm like that's what was happening. That's what like obviously a lot of stuff in the movie just went over my head. Even like I don't know if it was just poor writing or I was just distracted or I was just really disappointed and kind of checked out like halfway through the film or something. But I don't. I will get into more, but yeah, not a fan, and it made me more. I was open minded that they made a fourth, hoping that it would live up to the first three, and coming out of the movie, I was even more disappointed that they ever made a fourth one.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who agree with that particular take. But I'm gonna go the other way on. Honestly, I liked it enough to watch it a second time. I looked forward to watching it a second time. It was important to me that I wanted to see it before. Like I watched it. I think either the night it came out or the night after it came out on HBO Plus or HBO Max as well. And then it was like leaving HBO Max for a while
Yeah,
after a certain amount
it
of
was only
time.
there for a month.
Yeah, and so I caught it again. Like I caught it like literally I finished watching like 15 minutes before it would have gone away. Like I had very little time to finish it. Like I was right up against it. Um, I will agree with Van that I do think the first half of the movie is a lot stronger than the ending of the movie. I don't feel like they stuck the ending for a number of reasons, which we can get into later. I will also agree with Van that of the four movies, it's my least favorite of the four. But, I do not agree with Shy. Like, I did enjoy it quite a bit. I thought it was really good. I thought there was a lot about it that I appreciated, and I thought was very clever. The way they did it, like, and there's, again, we can go deeper on that, but there was a lot that I appreciated about it, and I think maybe, you said you had a very low bar for it, Shy, and I wonder if that's true considering how how you ended up reacting to it. I wonder if maybe the bar was higher than maybe you actually realized because to me, I tried to really take it as not worrying about whether it would live up to the previous three. Not that you can't um like how do I put this? Like I feel like I had to do this with the second and third one as well. That like the first Matrix was like a phenomenon. Like it was really mind blowing. It kind of was a different type of movie in a way, a movie that a lot of us had never really even like. It opened our mind to a different way of thinking about things, which is maybe a little bit um, hyperbolic. But like 2 and 3, whether we like them or not, I think we all agree don't live up to the first one. They can't. And I think when you put this much time between any trilogy, a sequel is not like I mean, it's probably reminiscent of, the Indiana Jones, where they had the 3 movies, and then, like, 10 years later, they try to do the Crystal Skull or whatever, and, like, you can't it's just not gonna be the same. It's not gonna have the same feel to it, and so I really tried to feel like this is a continuation of the story perhaps, but like not really try to compare it to whether or not it feels the same or continues anything from the previous ones or is in the same lineage because it's very different. And maybe that's why I had a different perspective on it. But
And I mean, my pushback to that would be that if the two main characters from the first trilogy weren't in it, if it didn't have Neo and Trinity in it at all, yeah, I'd be totally cool with like a whole new side story of the Matrix, them doing a whole new thing, right? But no, they're include like it's not a new thing. It's continuing the story. Like you have to. So like I guess what I'm saying is I guess I wasn't disappointed. I went in with a low bar and I wasn't disappointed. Like it didn't go above that bar. So like I guess it just was like it was as bad as I expected it to be. And it's not that I didn't appreciate things. Some of the stuff you've alluded to that we'll get to later. I appreciated some of the commentary that was in the film. But
yeah, well, let's get into it. Let's talk about things that we like and we didn't like. And we can mix these up and we can go. I mean, I'd say go with what you're passionate about. Like let's just kind of go round robin and talk about some points in the movie, things that were good, things that were bad, things that were baffling. Should we start at the end? Which is something that Van pulled out, like how well maybe we should start at the beginning, right? So they set the stage where you're once again this is something I liked, right? You're once again put in a position where you could question, where you could ask that question, like the original Matrix, right? When you finished the Matrix, you were left still with that idea with like, what if the Matrix is real, right? What if we really are all in a computer? Like, would we know? Like, you know, and I felt like they kind of came back to that. It's like, how could they do that? Where it's like making the Matrix self-referential to say just because you know about the Matrix, just because it exists as media in your world, doesn't mean you're not actually in the Matrix, right? Like, just knowing about it is actually a better, um, like, you know what I mean? Like the fact that the Matrix is a movie makes it actually harder to believe that the Matrix is real than if there wasn't a Matrix movie. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and I thought like that they kind of like used that in the film to say like the whole like we've basically made this construct where everybody knows about the Matrix, but they're actually in it and they don't think they're in it because they think it's like it's media and not
yeah,
an actual thing. And I thought that was kind of a clever way to put the audience back in that same position they were in the first movie, where they maybe have to wonder like, is the Matrix real? I like that. I thought
yeah.
that was a really good framing for how to explain how people are still in the Matrix and how like the Matrix has evolved for these machines to say now we have kind of this Matrix 2.0 that's even more efficient and even more encapsulating, and it uses itself self-referentially. Like I think that's just very clever. But so we have that at the beginning and
Mhm.
we have this setup, and like maybe we could talk a little bit about that. Like Van, you said you were kind of getting into that part of it and you were kind of getting engaged. Like what did you like about the early parts of the film?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, because it's been so long since part one came out and two and three and whatnot. It was I thought a clever way to remind the audience of where you have been, which I appreciated. I do feel like it went on a little too long by the time like you were, because literally halfway through the movie is a short version of Matrix 1. Like it's almost to the T. It's like the same crap that they did with Star Wars, developing
Yeah.
Anakin and all that crap. And it's so you have the red pill, you have the blue pill, you're bringing everybody back in. Oh, the Matrix isn't real. Oh, take the pill. Oh, the Matrix is real. And it's like literally just number one altogether. So I sound like I hate it, and I think it's because I am on the fence about it. So I liked it in the beginning. I was like, oh, cool, this is refreshing. And I really liked the dialogue that they had about the fourth Matrix video game that they were going to make and how they kept going back and forth and like, oh, Warner Brothers wants us to do this, but we don't really want to do it. And like,
Very
oh well,
tongue
it's
in
gonna
cheek,
flop,
right?
and yeah,
Yeah.
and like, and it was pretty cool because I was like, that's pretty hilarious that how they were able to have the same conversations that we all had in reality, I'm sure, with other people that we had, thus making a point like, hey, you might be living in a simulation, like this subtle thing, because look, we're scripting it out for you and all that. So I thought that was really clever how they did all that. So I really liked it. I started getting engaged there. Again, I think it just went on a little too long, and then stuff really started to fall apart at the end, which I'll get to later.
All right. Do you want and so okay, well let's get to that. So, unless Chad, do you have any comments about the beginning that you want
Yeah,
to throw
yeah,
in?
yeah. Well, I think For one thing, like a quarter of the movie's like clips from the original Matrix trilogy, which is kind of ridiculous.
Is it
Like
really a quarter of the movie?
it's a
That
I mean,
huge
there's
seems
frequent
amount.
much.
flashbacks.
Maybe it
but
was at
yeah,
least
I
maybe
don't know.
somewhere between 10% and 15%. Maybe they became monotonous at some point where it's like,
Yeah, I
I've
agree.
seen these movies many times. Why, maybe you need to have like a version if you've never watched The Matrix where like you like have them in,
Right.
and a version where if you're very familiar with Matrix, you don't need those. Like it felt kind of like cheap in my mind. It's like a way to pad the runtime length just to throw those in. I think so talking about just some of the comments Van made, I think the one thing that really stood out to me, and like I don't know if you guys have like read into just like some of the like backstory of why the film was made, or like why the one Wachowski member came back and directed it. But like they even talk about, there's a comment made even in some of those pitch meetings in the movie early on where it's like, if we don't make it, they're going to go ahead and make it anyway. And I think they even
Somebody else
referenced
can do it.
DreamWorks. I think that
Warner
not
Brothers.
Warner Brothers. Yeah, they even referenced
Yeah.
Warner Brothers. So it's very open.
They
But
did.
like, I believe that's what is it Lena Wachowski? I think that's what she was told. Basically, was you can come back and direct it, and if you don't direct it, we're just gonna go ahead and make the film anyway. And she was like, and I don't think she was super happy with like the timeline or the opportunities or whatever. But she's like, better I try to do something with this film than let some unknown entity do something with it. And who knows? Like, who knows if like some up and coming director who's done original stuff, if they'd gotten their hands on it, they could have done something really cool, as opposed to like this kind of like meta commentary of a film. But that was one thing I did appreciate, was the fact of like, hey, some of you guys aren't going to be really happy with this film, and like basically our hand was kind of forced. We didn't really have an option. The corporation was going ahead anyway, and that like I feel like it spoke to me because I wasn't really happy with the film, but it was like the director kind of speaking to us a little bit and being open about it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with you too about like just like setting up the Matrix again. I think I was torn because I didn't kind of like with them like playing with your emotions in mind again. It's like you went through all that in the first 3 films, you kind of figured it out, and they're like, but it might have been a video game. You never know, and it's like, really, like I mean, I guess it was kind of cool, but it was like I'm past that. Just like just move on.
And Neo's struggle with the analyst. Yeah. About constantly thinking whether he was having a video game memory or whether it was an actual event in his life and all that stuff. So
I mean, that's sorry, I was gonna say something that we talked about off there. We talked off the air a little bit about gaslighting, right? And like a perfect example of gaslighting in the film was exactly how he was basically, encouraging him to think that like, no, you're crazy, you're just a crazy,
isolating him from the
we don't
truth.
say crazy, but like this isn't real, like you're having an episode or whatever. But you know, when really he's going through something. What I really found super compelling about the first part of the film was just Neo's struggle with depression, um, and just like his kind of going through the motions of his life, his feeling trapped, which I think is something that they kind of told us in the first movie that that's how he felt, but they didn't really show us, like that, like to me, like we get to see, like it's almost like a what would have happened in the first movie if Neo had taken the blue pill and gone back to sleep and just stay in the Matrix. And now you see he takes the blue pill every day, and like he knows something's not right, but he can't really figure it out, and he just feels despondent. And like I don't know, something about just kind of watching him go through that and kind of have his little kind of coffee shop interactions with Trinity and everything. I really liked it. I it definitely kind of hooked me in and got me invested in it again. Um, all right, and so my question is, I think, we both agree, Van and I, that the ending was not very good. Shia, is that something that you agree with as well, or I mean, you feel like kind of across the board you didn't care for? Did you?
I'd be curious to know what you guys are specifically talking about as far as ending, because I
and
guess I've already
that's
already talked about, like, I generally didn't like the film, so I'm curious to know what turned you guys off to the film.
Well, that's what was my next question was going to be, and I guess I'll pose it to Van, is like, at what point do you feel that it switched from, okay, I'm okay with this, to okay, at this point in the film is where it started to lose me. Like, what was it?
There were a lot of things leading up to this point that I wasn't okay with. But the part that lost me, or where I got disengaged, was right before the Trinity rescue portion for a lot of reasons.
Are you talking about where they go back in and they fight the hobos?
Yeah. So basically, the part that lost me was
Right.
hey, so Neo's already been pulled out of the pod, and
Yep.
he's in the real world, and the analysis, who we find out is the architect.
Well, the architect's successor, right?
Correct. The architect's successor, and then there's the suits, which apparently is more robots, AIs who control the architect, or something like that. But the architect actually implements all of the crap for the Matrix and keeps people where they are and develop the world and everything like that. And Shai's laughing. I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
I don't know.
I'm sure we all
I
have
don't
different
know. I'm not really
interpretations of everything.
following along.
So anyway, so it lost me at the exact point when the architect or the analyst said, "Hey, we don't need to reboot the entire Matrix because Neo will just get right back in the pod because otherwise we're gonna kill Trinity." And Neo said, "Yeah, that's true. I will do that." And then all of a sudden, that didn't happen, and they were on this crazy rescue mission about saving Trinity, and they were sending in all these different robots and everything to go save her, and like none of that happened at all whatsoever. That he said, "Yeah, I'll go back in the pod," and they met with Saudi, the girl from before.
Girl from the third
And
movie.
she even said, "Yeah, because Neo, I know you're going to go back in the pod, I think," or something alluded to that. And then the very next scene, without any explanation, they have this big plan to go out and rescue Trinity instead. And it's like, how the hell can you say one thing on screen and then go into this big old rescue plan, which wasn't at all what you said you were going to do? And like, I get if you're trying to trick, but it almost seemed like they tricked the viewer, but without an explanation. Like, hey, we're going to go back in the pod to screw the architect, but we're really not. Like, they literally said, "Yeah, you're right. I will go back in there to save Trinity." And then nothing else being said, all of a sudden they're in this mission to rescue Trinity. And it was just, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Did I miss something? Was there bad editing? Like, what the hell happened here? And then from then on, it just got worse.
Bad editing. We'll get there.
Oh shit! I didn't have a problem with that, Van. That's so funny because my experience with it turned at the exact same time yours did, or it started to, I would say. But like that didn't bother me at all. Like I feel like I understood, and maybe I was able to just make the leap, or maybe there was something that you missed that I caught. I'd have to go
Yeah,
back and
exactly.
rewatch it.
Sure.
But like I felt like the idea was that like they all knew that he would do whatever it took to save Trinity, and like that he was gonna agree to that. But then basically that's when that girl showed up and was like, "Hey, we actually have another way."
Yeah,
Right?
like
Like,
my father was the
here's an
architect of the
alternative
pods.
to
Yeah,
being a slave, we could just get her out safely,
right.
and so they're like, "Alright, well, we're gonna tell him that we're gonna play ball so that we can lure him into, being able to save Trinity." And so, I don't know, it'd be interesting to go back and watch and see if it's like, did I just make a leap that didn't bother me, and I was expected to, and it was easier for me and some people weren't? Or was there something there that was actually said, and if you watched again, you'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
they do explain it." For
I do
me.
want to
Oh,
watch
go ahead.
that again for a lot of reasons at that part too, because like the two cyborgs, and I keep calling them cyborgs, I don't know if that's the right term, but the robots,
The
the
good robots?
supposedly cute one, yeah, like the big bulky I can't remember what his name
Oh,
was.
yeah. Yeah, I know.
So like they were like, "Oh, we don't know how we're going to rescue Trinity because that bot was never supposed to go in the first time, and now that it went in there, the robots have exiled it from being in there." And all of a sudden it's fucking back in there like 10 minutes later. Like without problem, it got in no matter what. And I'm like, I understand that Saudi, I got to look up her name so I'm not just saying it wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
I understand that
it's
her dad
Sati.
was the architect.
Maybe it's
Sati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand that she knows all about the pods because he invented it and like this more efficient way and all that stuff, but like he didn't probably control the security systems leading up to that pod, which this bot was exiled from. So I had a lot of
There's some gaps there.
Van's
Sure.
like really going deep, like
that I needed to that I needed to fix.
That's fair.
And I haven't even got started on Morpheus. So
Oh,
We'll have to come back to him.
I'm ranting a bit, so I apologize to our listeners,
Alright.
but it's just all coming back why I really dislike the ending.
Van, I picture a closet in your house where there's like red thread going through the room, like there's like cyborgs and a line, like question mark, and another line going, security system question mark, and like just like conspiracy. Yeah.
Yep.
For me, it dropped. I felt like the second half, and it didn't like lose me necessarily, but like I felt like it was weaker because the end in so many places for so many reasons seemed pointless,
Yeah,
right? And so like
100. Could not agree more.
it starts when they go back into the Matrix on their little mission, and then the Merovingian shows up with a bunch of murder hobos, and it's like,
That's just fan
cool,
service. Like,
yeah,
there's no
cool reference, bro, right? But
right.
like, what's he doing there? Where did he come from? How did he know about it? Why is he like he okay? He wants vengeance because I guess Neo caused him some trouble by like
And he was
like
allowed to escape the purge, like these
well,
computers that
well, he presumably he's on the run, like, and that's why he's mad. But like, it just felt like okay. And then they do this whole fight sequence, and then he goes down and he fights the new Agent Smith in a very reminiscent subway fight
was his
battle.
boss the whole time.
And again, like, why? Why are they fighting? What are they doing? What is the purpose of the battle? They both know at this point that physical violence doesn't actually really mean anything in the Matrix. Like it just seemed completely pointless. And I'm just
Yeah.
like to your point with the fan service, it's like, okay, we're recreating a scene reminiscent of the first movie for what for but why? And like I just felt like that whole part like is where I'm like, what are we doing here? Like skip us ahead to like once then we get back to like him actually trying to rescue Trinity and talking to the architect and doing the heist. Like I was fine with all that. I thought that was cool. Again, they're pulling a very reminiscent move from the second Matrix where it's like 3 ships, 3 objectives, you know. They're doing this whole thing, but I was fine with all that. But like it's got to have like a reason, I feel like. And then especially the very end, like they're all trying to escape and it's like zombie apocalypse, everybody's after it. And it's like they make this comment when they go back in and they say, "Hey, you know that like everybody in their old crew died except for them, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, well, it's gonna be fine this time." And then like they have like every human becomes a zombie and is trying to kill
Yeah.
them, and
They're bots,
somehow
right? So
not every bot whatever you want to call it, and like not one of them comes away like they all get out safely. Like
so I want to comment on that. And I literally
what's
have written down
happening?
I have
Yeah,
written down aimbot. Okay. So this is aimbot for any gamer that knows. This is like a typically illegal or cheating hack that uses the program to automatically zone in on a specific character inside a game to hit 100% wherever it wants to hit 100% of the time, right? It's real easy to code. You just code it. Yes, I want to hit this target and it'll hit 100% of the time. Like what bothered me the most was how bad, and I have it written here, aimbot question mark, as bad as stormtroopers. Like they are unloading hundreds of rounds of fully automatic weapons feet away from these people, and they're unable to
and
hit
like
them.
and
And I'm like,
nobody's
this is a
nobody's
computer
yeah,
hitting another computer.
absolutely.
Like, how do you miss at all? Every single shot should be a headshot, like instantly. And it just it bothered me so much.
Yeah,
And then the last comment I want to make, and sorry, Sean, we're taking up all the time
yeah.
here. Last comment I want to make is that the Agent Smith thing wasn't even tied up into a nice bow at the end either. Like it
No.
was completely left open ended. They fight, they do the stupid fight that they neither of them could beat each other like always that we've seen 100 times, and then they just depart after Agent Smith gets like kicks the analyst to give Neo time, even though they're enemies,
Yeah,
and then that's the last we see of Agent Smith, and it's like, what the hell just happened?
yeah.
And I
That
asked Sheenie about that, and she said, well, if you remember, the Oracle in previous ones said that he's the yin to the yang and their arch nemesis, and there's nothing they can do. They're destined to fight each other forever for no reason or any reason at all. And I'm like, okay, I can swallow that orange pill.
he the I'm gonna go on a limb right now and say if you take the Agent Smith character completely out of the movie, it's a better movie for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason for him to be
Yep.
there. It was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like if you wanted to draw a parallel where like Neo's having these flashbacks. He's like, "Is my boss Agent Smith?" Like, just because he's kind of losing a little bit, like that would be cool. But like for him actually to then be Agent Smith made it just weird. Like,
or even cast what was the guy? What's the actor's name? Elrond. Like who?
Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, cast Hugo Weaving as his boss, but it's not Agent Smith. And he's like being paranoid about it. Like, I'm all on board. I'm all on board with really that. Fun. That'd be awesome.
Okay, Shai, tell us where.
So like, I mean, you guys have touched on a number of things, and I'll just like hit on a couple that really bothered me. The scene when he's talking to the analyst and Trinity's there, that bothered me as well. And honestly, a lot of the later Matrix scenes where they're in the Matrix bothered me, and the fact that like Neo has lost his powers, and I don't remember if they tried to explain it away that he's been taking the blue pill or like why they like that. That was part of like one thing that bothered me was he'd mastered the Matrix, and there was those even weird illusions where like he even had like powers in real life near the end of the Matrix films, right? And so I don't know if it had something to do with him dying and resurrecting. It's just I wish that there'd been an explanation as to why, like, and like I said, maybe they did. Maybe I might glossed over it, but like that really bothered me. The scene with the Merovingian, that honestly, I think that is where I came to hate the film, and I think it's different than what you guys are talking about, or maybe like you guys will agree with this, but like. The Matrix films for me, one of the key points, and we've talked about this a lot. I love martial arts films. I really love fight choreography. That fight scene is probably one of the worst fight scenes I've ever seen. And I've busted on Christopher Nolan recently for his fight choreography scenes and stuff like that. But like that Merovingian fight scene is just horrible. The editing is terrible. Like half the time you don't really know what's even going on. Whereas like some of the beauty of a lot of the original Matrix trilogy was there were these kind of wide shots, long cuts. You saw these really intricate choreography and movements. And like after that fight scene, I'm like, why did you even include that? Like, because I almost don't even feel like it was fan service. It was like maybe it was trying to be fan service, but like the fact that it was so poorly done almost made it like a slap in the face of fans.
It felt more like what you said before. They need to pad out the runtime. So let's add a 5-minute mad brawl here.
For a 40-minute movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Adding.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shai. I don't feel like it did. Again, it didn't really. There was no stakes to it, right? Like in the end, if you took it out, what would be different in the movie? Nobody was injured. Nobody was killed. None of those characters who were in the fight, other than like the main crew, like none of those villains showed up again or caused any trouble or like were going to be in a position to cause trouble that you had to eliminate them. Like it was literally pointless to the plot of the film. Like nothing changed because whether they had the fight or not, it would have like the next scene would have taken place the exact same way with the exact same people.
Which in a story, specifically in a movie that's like, that you're trying to keep tight or expensive to make, whatever, you should always, any scene, you should like balance it along those questions, like you're saying, like, does this scene matter? If not, why do we even have it in here? Like, cut it on cutting floor.
What's different about the story if this scene doesn't happen?
Yeah,
that is literally exactly how I felt when he went back to Io. Now, when it's because Zion no longer exists, so they're in the new town called Io, and he gets put in prison. It's like, oh shit, shocking, he's going to prison, and then literally 30 seconds later, he's hopping on the ship and he's out of prison. And it's like, why did you have to say he went to prison in the first place? Like, what is going on? It means literally nothing. You could have just said, okay, why don't you go back to your ship? Instead of go to prison. Hey, you really don't want to stay here in prison, do you? And then he gets on the ship and leaves. It's literally like it was a minute later. And I'm like, what was the point of the whole prison scene? Like, why did he go to prison?
A couple other things, and you guys touched on these as well, but just to kind of like put my hat in the ring as well. The ending, like the whole like chase at the end, the fight with, they call it like horde mode, or what do they call it, like activate? Was it bot mode or horde mode or whatever? Like you're right, like the way you said zombie apocalypse or whatever. Like it just felt like giving in to like the cultural zeitgeist these days of like everything's zombie, everything's swarms of zombies. Let's just have a swarm of zombies and like throw it at them. And honestly, it was kind of like morbid. I don't know if that like hit you guys at all, but like
it did.
Them all like jumping off of buildings and it's like
absolutely.
I mean,
dude, I was like, these are fathers,
yeah,
sisters, brothers. It was
pretty dark because I feel like that was one of the cool stakes of the original trilogy was whenever an agent took over someone and it got killed or whatever, you're like, damn, like that person just died. That was always my assumption. I don't know if you guys ever used to think about that kind of stuff, but like it felt like a big deal when like they actually manipulated a human life directly in the old Matrix trilogy. And here it's like, well, we're gonna activate everybody, like thousands of people, and it's like, okay. And then I guess just going back to Neo's powers, like at the end when they jump off the building and Trinity can fly and they don't really explain why, it just happens, and like, you know, the whole like Neo, like his like push or whatever he did, like it's like this, like he can't really fight or control the Matrix, but he can like push. I don't know. It was yeah.
So that Trinity floating scene holding on to Neo, like, was just, I know that the new term now that everybody uses for everything is everything's so cringe. Like that was as cringe as it got for me. And the dialogue made it worse because they are literally, they're going to see if they can fly, right? So they are literally taking a leap of faith. And I was like, oh, cool. They're taking a leap of faith. They go off. Trinity is able to hold on to Neo, and her dialogue is bye. And then she floats off. And I was like, what the heck? That was probably my least favorite part of the entire movie. Hold on to Neo. They look at each other. It's supposed to be this huge climax, right? It's supposed to be akin to when Neo finally realized he was the one in one and stopped all the bullets, right? That's what it was supposed to be. That's how I interpreted it. So she's holding on to Neo. They're looking up at each other. There's no words exchanged. She looks around. Helicopter comes around with rockets. Bye. And she leaves and they fly off. I was like, that was so, like, just left me wanting so much more. I was so disappointed in that scene.
What else, guys? What else? Is it my turn?
Yeah, I think we're back to you, Smiley.
Let's talk about casting. Or go ahead, Smiley. It sounded like you still had stuff you wanted to talk about.
You can talk about casting. What do you want to say about it?
I did not like Lawrence Fishburne's character. Maybe I just didn't understand it. I didn't like the acting of it. I didn't like the character portrayal of Lawrence Fishburne. I don't like who he had become.
You say Lawrence Fishburne, but like you mean Morpheus.
The new Morpheus?
Yeah, the new Morpheus.
I was like, was Lawrence Fishburne in the movie?
Sorry.
Well, he was
in there.
He was as a statue, right?
Yeah.
The original Morpheus. Like,
right,
and I think that was the point that like they didn't. It's not like Neo and Trinity were kept alive, right?
Hmm.
And I think this is probably why you didn't like it, man. And I'm just gonna go on a limb here.
Sure.
Is that like there's no reason for Morpheus to be alive, right? And so they didn't want to just recast. They just didn't want to bring Lawrence Fishburne back and have him somehow be there because it doesn't make any goddamn sense. But they also were like, well, we can't have the Matrix without Morpheus. So they had to find a way to work that in. So like, well, what if we take this idea of Morpheus that Neo has and like bring him to life and like all this stuff? And so like it is like a bastardization,
okay,
right? Like I'm
not talking about the physical appearance of the new Morpheus. I'm talking about demeanor and all of that stuff. Like Morpheus was like a freaking class act to me. Like just a badass class act. And then this new Morpheus was like the village idiot. Like just a clown, like pompous, derpy, arrogant.
He was a mix, right? He was a mix. He was like a character that was like a synthesis of Morpheus and Agent Smith, is how they described it. So, like, when you take those two characters, if you merge them together, I feel like that's kind of
why though. You had an actual Agent Smith. So why does he merge with Morpheus, with new Morpheus?
Listen, you can. I don't make goddamn sense.
I didn't write the script. So why are you asking him?
I'm just telling you what they said. Like that wasn't meant to be like purely distilled Morpheus. They said that was like Morpheus the agent or something. Like
either way,
I don't get that either.
I did not like it. I thought it was not becoming of the Morpheus legend. And it just made me sad. And then the other characters I didn't like, real quickly, is the new ragtag group of starfighters, ship pilots, and that whole group and all that crap. The new tank, the new dozer, the new everything. I'm like, this is just like what we talked about in Boba Fett series. Like it's all these new, younger hipster punk rock. I get it. Or not punk, but cyberpunk. I get it. They're trying to appeal to a younger audience, probably in this fourth episode to start a brand new lineage of Matrix fans. And I just hated it. Maybe I'm just old and grumpy, but I didn't like them in Boba Fett, and I didn't like them here either.
Can I throw out two? I'm sorry, Smile. I know you've been waiting, but I know you probably have a lot to say. So just really quickly, I want to throw out two casting things I thought they did a good job with. I thought Neil Patrick Harris as the analyst was a great pick.
Amazing.
Neil Patrick Harris can play a jerk so well.
Like
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I liked Bugs. I don't know. Like going back to the idea of if Trinity and Neo hadn't been in this film and it just been like a spin-off, maybe like a new trilogy of the Matrix, I think Bugs could have been a really cool like star for that film. And I came to like her by the end of the film. But
well, I feel like too, like I was gonna make this point based on what Van said, that like if Morpheus hadn't been Morpheus, they hadn't called him that, I feel like you probably would have felt better about it. Right? Like if he had just been like Synthesoid X who's like helping Bugs find Neo, you probably feel like, okay, he's kind of cool, like whatever. Like maybe he's kind of derpy, maybe he's trying to figure things out, right? But whatever, like you're not trying to put so much on him. But like, I don't think they did a great job, not only of trying to have a Morpheus role that wasn't Morpheus but still was, and also explaining it in the terms of the film. Like, there's a couple throwaway lines where they try to be like, you're a mix of Smith and Morpheus and this and that, but like it doesn't make a lot of sense. And like when Bugs like hugs him, it's like, we've been looking for you. Like, what? Like, why would you be looking for him? Like, how does anybody know he exists? Like Neo made him on like that part. Like they never even explained like who's looking for Morpheus. Like Morpheus has been dead for years. Like, do you think he's going to be resurrected like Jesus, like the second coming? Because I didn't know there was a prophecy about that.
You're jumping ahead to the sequel, Smiley. Number 5 is going to explain why they were looking for Morpheus.
And the other thing I'll say is, I think that they like part of the reason none of them did die was because that is what they want, right? They want the option of doing a spin-off without perhaps, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, and to be able to say, well, what if we do a side movie with the crew, Bugs and her crew doing things, and like, would people be into that? Like, it sounds like Van wouldn't, but like, I think that was their goal, and that's probably why they all survived to the end, because they're trying to build these characters into potential, they want to market them, and like everybody wants to be the MCU now, right? Like everybody wants to be able to have a million linked movies because, but like if the MCU has taught us anything, and perhaps MCU compared to DC has taught us anything, is that like it's not as easy as just like, like everybody wants to do it, but like it's pretty hard to actually do it right, and like you really have to get it right. Otherwise, your movies just suck. So I don't know.
If Spider-Man No Way Home taught us anything, right? No. All right.
Oh, did you not like
Throw away?
Sorry, I don't.
No, never mind. No.
I guess I don't know what your point was with that.
Yeah,
like, is this because it was good, or is
I'm comparing it, like putting it above MCU potentially, but.
Oh, I mean, I thought Spider-Man No Way Home was great, but that's another podcast.
It's not Matrix.
Not Matrix. I'm trying to decide. Like, it's not that I didn't like the crew. I didn't have the same reaction as Van. I liked the one chick who, like, not Bugs, but like the lesser chick who was like, I was inspired by Trinity, and or whatever.
Flat hair, the super flat hair.
The one with the weird hair.
She was pretty cool. Yeah,
she was. I liked her. The others, I'm trying to like.
Sec? You didn't like Sec, the new tank?
I don't even remember them. Like, I don't remember it. Like, they were
short for Sequoia, the guy with the freaking cybernetic eye.
Yeah,
oh, come on. He was like the biggest guy next to Bugs.
Are you defending him, man? What's going on here?
That's my point. Is that like I just didn't care about him. Yeah. Like had they all lived or died, I probably would have just been like, oh, okay, yeah. Like they just weren't that important to me or important to the story. I don't feel like, and you're right. Like they tried to. It was very much of a let's recreate Matrix 1 and have him wake up and here's my crew, this person, that person, this person, that person. But like it happens so late in the film, and like in Matrix 1, they do all die pretty much right out. Like, I mean, APOC and Switch, we get like 5 minutes with each of them, and then they're both dead. So, like, it just doesn't matter that much. But in this one, they don't die, but like you still kind of have the same level of attachment because you've
Well, it's
had a
funny that you know
quarter
who
of them
APOC
with them.
and Switch is, and you don't know who Sek is, who lived through the whole entire
Yeah,
thing.
but I've seen The Matrix like 600 times, so there's a difference there. And I've had like 15 years with it, so give me 15 years with Resurrections, and maybe I'll know their names if I watch it that many times.
Don't do it.
I
Don't
probably
do it,
won't.
Smiley.
Probably won't. I mean, listen, again, I liked it. I think it was fine, and I
It was not
will
fine.
say,
I'm changing my initial
okay, good,
initial
that's
response.
fine.
I said it was okay. It's not okay. It's a trash movie.
You know what I liked about it the most, and I'll finish. This will be the
The
last
ending,
point that I make.
the
Not
credits.
that it ended. No, that's what you think. I actually like. Call me sentimental, but like what I feel like the original trilogy, I'm really invested in the Neo and Trinity love story. Like I've always enjoyed it, like following through like that commitment they have to each other and like everything that they kind of go through. Like it's touching to me. I don't know why. Maybe I think of Sarah or
No,
whatever,
I
but
like it
like
too.
it
I think
tears
it's
me
great.
up.
Yeah, I like
Like
it too.
and like I wanted more of that. And like I felt like his search for her and like the fact when they finally kind of come back together, even though like I didn't love the way it all happened, like it was kind of cheesy and kind of like I hate that name and like punch it or whatever she does when she's like don't call me my name is
Tiffany.
Trinity don't
Yeah.
call me Tiffany like okay like again a little bit too much like you have to mirror like my name is Neo like you have to mirror everything from the first movie like very much and I think this is what you were getting at with Star Wars when you said this Van what was our biggest criticism at episode 7 was that like it's beat for beat episode
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
throughout the goddamn movie and they did the exact same thing here right like beat for
Yep.
beat like you can follow along and say let's draw the line right back to Matrix 1 and that's it's insulting to our intelligence in a lot of ways like when it's so obvious like you want a little more subtlety I think in a Matrix movie but I liked I liked them coming together. I felt I was touched by it. I was happy that I got to see more of Neo and Trinity. It was enough for me. I do think the beginning was stronger. I think that this movie could have been 45 minutes shorter and a lot better for it. But I didn't hate it.
Yeah, I think
That's my final thought on it.
I think the final comment I want to make on things that I didn't like was literally the very very end about like you just mentioned like beat for beat where it ends and what happens, right? So at the very very end they have their powers back just like Neo had his powers back in 1. They proclaim, I can't remember exactly what they said, like we're gonna wake everybody up or we're gonna run this place,
remake the Matrix in our image or whatever, like
yeah, we're gonna be the king and queen of this thing, which was exactly as Neo in episode in the first one.
Right.
And then they fly off and it's like it was like I think the insulting is the right word that you use, that like you brought us through 12 hours of Matrix, right? 10 to 12 hours of Matrix to end with literally the same exact place we were when we ended the first time. And maybe that was by design, right? Because there's been 5 Matrixes before the Matrix that we knew, and this is supposed to be the 7th iteration in Resurrection. Like, we are no place different after watching 2, 3, and 4 than we were at the end of 1. And that like pisses me off so much that I spent 7 to 9 hours watching these films to be in no different of a place than where we were at the end of 1. And that's like my biggest criticism of the final piece of it.
That's fair. I thought you were gonna go like full old man Muppets and be like, well, I did like one thing, the credits. All right, Shai. Final thoughts from you.
Final thoughts. All right, two things.
Likes or dislikes or whatever.
I want to tell a real life story actually of my interactions with a coworker who I'd seen it.
But did it happen in the real life or
did you guys fly off together?
Yeah. So like I saw it the first like weekend I was out, and then like we came back to work like the next week or whatever, and I was talking to a coworker who's a big fan of the Matrix series. He's like, "Oh, did you see Resurrections?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What do you think?" He's like, "I haven't seen it yet, and I'm trying to figure out if I should go." And I was like, because I didn't want to spoil it. I didn't want to be like, I didn't want to tell him that I didn't like it. but I do like. All right, so let me say my final take is I'm glad I watched it. I am glad I watched it because like if I hadn't watched it, I wouldn't have seen what they considered the next step in the trilogy series. Like I'm glad I saw what is officially Matrix canon. But like so I was like I told him like I think you should watch it. I think like it is worth watching. So he apparently went to the theater and paid full price for a theater ticket to go see it in the movies. And then like the next day, like on Monday after the weekend, he's like, I can't believe you told me to go see that film. And I was like, I didn't tell you to go to the theater. I just said you should watch. I assumed you were going to wait until it was like direct stream or whatever, or like watch HBO Max. He's like, yeah, I hated that film. And I was like, yeah, I didn't like it very much either. But like, I don't like, so like that's like my one, I don't know if you guys have had interactions with other people talking about it, but like, that's my really one interaction was another Matrix fan who like, was very disappointed by it and actually mad that I guess had implied that he should go buy a movie ticket. But I want to just push back on your thing, Smiley, about just a different take on the Trinity Neo romance. And this will be my final thought. Like, as Van and I think we're both implying, we both really are invested. I think that's something probably a lot of people were invested in, was the romance. Like, that was kind of like a humanizing element in a very dark, depressing, kind of like post-apocalyptic story. There wasn't a lot to be excited about with the Matrix trilogy. It was cool, but you couldn't get invested except for Neo and Trinity, and that was really like humanizing element and like brought in. But I mean, I guess personally, while it didn't have the happiest ending in a third one, I thought like when we talk about stakes, it felt impactful. It felt like Trinity going with Neo to the Machine City, dying on that journey to get him there, and then him sacrificing himself to like fight the machines. Like that all felt like it had weight in a story that like had been building, and like they sacrificed themselves for humanity, and they succeeded, right? Like their sacrifices meant something, and I just feel like I was okay with that. So I mean, it was cool seeing him interact again. I mean that romance, I mean, is
listen. That's totally a fair take, and I think like that's more the argument is like why you shouldn't make Matrix 4 in the first place, right?
Right.
And I think I agree with that. Like if they had left it at 3 and left the story there, I think that's probably the better resting place for the
Yeah.
plot. But if you're gonna bring him back,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm glad that she was alive too.
Yeah.
Like, because I think we were wondering in the beginning, like, is she real or is she just like a construct that like is the Matrix using her like her memory to like make him think like you know what I mean? Like I'm glad that like they was able to do it. And I thought it was cool that like it was very empowering for her, right? Like in the plot of the movie isn't that like Neo doesn't save Trinity. Like Trinity saves Neo. Trinity kind of breaks free on her own. Like she's given the choice, and he even agrees. He's like, if she chooses to go, I can't stop that, right? And like I think that's it's a very cool, like I don't know, like it's very kind of misogynistic in a lot of like movie tropes where the hero has to save the girl, and like she kind of took the reins herself, and I did like that aspect of it, like that they like you said at the end they were kind of equals, like they were both the superheroes. It wasn't her riding being saved by him or riding off with him as maybe it happened in the past. It kind of was her chance to stand on her own feet, and I thought that was pretty cool. All right, I think I already know the answer to this from hearing both of your comments. Do you hope this will be the final Matrix movie? That's the question we had pended. We should say that it's not even worth the question of the day, isn't it? Because do we all agree? Do we hope this will be the final Matrix movie?
I'll just take it, and we're not going to use it as a question of the day.
No.
I don't know. I'm on the fence. I certainly don't want to go through another of what I just went through, but at the same time, like I just feel like this great injustice has been done to the entire series based off this last 4, and it's like you can't leave it that way. Like there has to be more, there has to be better, and that's just me hopelessly romanticizing that there's going to be something better. Yeah,
that a 5th one could come and clean up some of the things that you didn't like.
But
a little bit better.
It's like I feel like a masochist. I don't want it, but I feel like it's deserved. Like we need to be left in a better position and see a better movie if you're going to make us go through this again. I don't know.
Shai alluded to this a little bit. Would you be open to a movie set in the Matrix universe, in the Matrix setting, that did not involve any of the main characters? So either something with bugs,
so maybe
and her
that's
crew,
the
or
question
just like
time.
okay, yeah, maybe we'll revisit that because we are kind of pretty much out of time here.
New Morpheus, Matrix 5, New Morpheus returns.
Bring Lawrence Fishburne back. have new Morpheus, have like old Morpheus kill new Morpheus, take his place, and steal his power. I don't know.
Zombie Lawrence
We got
Fishburne comes back.
we got some
like
Matrix 5 pitches to make. Okay, that's good to know. Any final thoughts? I know we did final thoughts, but any quick hits before we wrap this up? No, overall, anything more? Shy, you didn't get to answer. Sorry. Did you want to see another Matrix movie? You hope this is the final?
Not necessarily, but I would be potentially if there was like an offshoot. If they'd started a new series, I'd be potentially intrigued.
I would say personally, like I do hope it's the last Matrix movie. I don't really need to see any more, but just because I feel like they're just everything's like I said, everything's trying to be the MCU, and it doesn't really need to be. Like you could just stop. But if they did make more, I'd probably watch it because that's what's up. All right. Well, if you have opinions on Matrix Resurrection, if you want to tell us why we're so right, so wrong, or things we missed that we didn't rant about, we can be reached by various means of communication. We're on Twitter at Focus Target. We're on YouTube. Focus Target Podcast is a channel, and there are many previous episodes and side projects and things that we've done all on our YouTube site. We stream live on twitch.tv/Focus Target Podcast. And of course, the best way to reach the Focus Target Podcast is via email, focustargetpodcast@gmail.com. So thank you all for being with us here on the Focus Target Podcast, episode 112, where we discuss the Matrix Revolutions. I am your host, Captain Smiley.
This is Shyrel.
And I'm Van. As always, cover us, Porkins. We're out.